So Rav, like what's a misconception that a lot of people have about the music industry, because you're in the industry, you know what's going on, you know the ins and outs. What's something that a lot of people just don't know about it?
I think probably the biggest misconception is that we kind of sit around all day and we just make music and it's always just fun and play, but it's not. I mean, making music is obviously a big part of being in the music industry, but it's the process after you made the music, which is, I guess, the skills you need to develop, like marketing, distribution, understanding how to utilize social media, how to network effectively, how to be a personable person, how to be likable while still being authentic. And so, in my years in the music industry, being both a creative and an entrepreneur, I've been able to see it from both perspectives. And I've been fortunate enough to be around, you know, people that I see as mentors or I have seen as mentors who are now in my circle, and I see how they move and the conversations they have, and you just start seeing how they got to that place. It's by certain mindsets and approaches. So it's not just sit around and make music all day. As much as I wish it was, it is most definitely a combination of music and business. In fact, some people say it's 80% business and 20% music. So yeah.
So what you're saying is that basically you need to have like a well-rounded approach if you really want to make it in that industry.
Absolutely. And especially now, more than ever, when I first got into music in my early teens, kind of late teens, I would say I was very much a wishful thinker. And I was like, one day I'm going to play my song for some famous person and I'll get signed to a record label and my dream will manifest. And that's what it's going to be like. But that's not actually how it works when you realize that ownership is the goal, and it's actually much better to own everything yourself and partner with bigger companies so you retain equity and you retain ownership, then suddenly your dreams flip on their head. And I've been in positions now where I now talk to these same producers I had dreams of talking to a meeting one day, like they're in my DMs, we work together now. And so when I've had meetings with them and I've spoke to them and I've realized the dream's actually very different once you get there. You have to rethink what your dream actually is.
Hmm.
So it's a fascinating reality to be faced with, and it makes you question, do I really want this?
Yeah, so you were basically saying that you need to approach it holistically and you cannot just be like a creative person and expect things just to fall into your lap and get all the results that you want, and you need to be mastering numerous skills actually to make real progress within the music industry. How did you even get into it? Like was it like something internal when you were younger, you were like, you know what, this is something that resonates with me, I want to go into this direction? Or it was something maybe family, your family was into music? What was it?
So my uncle really was into music heavily when I was a young boy, and he always used to be playing like Michael Jackson, Prince, George Michael, Queen, right? All of these famous British and American kind of acts and stuff. And I used to just love watching the music videos because I'm a very visual person. So it was a combination of me just loving the music video, specifically Michael Jackson, and then the music started resonating with me a bit more as I got older. And then I started listening to more hip hop and R&B, and I actually started writing poetry and raps as I got a bit older. And I tried my hand at like rapping and poetry and stuff. It didn't work out, and that's why I'm not a famous rapper. But I tried making beats for my own raps. So that's how I started making music, because I was like, wouldn't it be dope if I could make my own beats to rap to? And so my friend had like a cracked version of this software, and every day after school I would bug him like, "Can we go back to yours and like make beats today?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, like it should be cool." And he used to live literally like 10 minutes from my grandmother's house, and so I would intentionally spend Monday to Friday at my grandmother's house just so I could walk 10 minutes to my friend's house because he had the producer software as a kid. And that's how I learned it. And man, I was hooked. You could not get me off that thing. I used to dream about it when I wasn't doing it. I would actually. So, do you have like? Do you remember when you was a kid? Do you ever used to have these textbooks that were like square grids, and that was like for math?
Square grid, like you mean on the paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would draw beats inside those cells. I would shade like what I thought the beat would sound like. So I would imagine like the kick and the snare and the hi-hat. And I used to split the page and I would actually draw music. Like that's how obsessed I was with it. And I would then go to the studio, the house, and I would recreate it for real. And this is what I mean. It's like when you think about all these athletes or actors or whoever that are really passionate about what they do, it's like an obsession from like a young age, and they just eat, breathe, and sleep what they do. And not to be cliche, but that's literally how it's been for me since I was a kid.
No, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I feel like a lot of creative people, it's always been something, from when they were younger. Maybe they slowly maybe went to a different path or maybe a different aspect of that industry. But if most of them start early on, that maybe that little song they heard, they played guitar, or they came across a certain tool that got them into this creative aspect, creative space. And over time you just build on that, brick by brick, and then suddenly you are like a master of your craft. So I'm assuming it was kind of like that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it.
I see.
Yeah.
So with with music, I know it's quite different with different aspects of creativity. Like let's just say, I don't know, drawing, animation. It can be architecture. Like, how do you put yourself in that of creative flow state that you're like, okay, if I want to, start producing, I have to do this.
It's a great question. There's a deeper answer and there's a simple answer. The simple answer is turning up in front of your equipment every day or as close to it as every day as you can. It builds that discipline that no matter how I feel, the act of starting the creation process, it brings everything else forward into reality for you because you are going through these motions that are so internalized now that the muscle memory just starts kicking in and you start hearing the ideas and you start feeling what needs to be added, and that just becomes the same level of discipline as working out is, or journaling or meditating. It's a practice, and when you've put enough hours in, it just becomes automatic. The deeper answer is most creatives will probably tell you that the inspiration comes from some sort of muse, something higher than themselves. The flow state, once you're in it, if you've achieved the supreme flow state, which we all wish for with every song, you don't even remember how you made it. All you remember is sitting down to do the work and something takes over you. Some people call it inspiration, some people call it the spirit, some people call it the universe, the high power, whatever you want to call it. But when you sit in that seat and you open yourself up as a vessel and a channel for inspiration, the ideas flow through you, and your job is to not interrupt the flow but direct the energy of the flow to where it needs to go, and you just don't get in the way of the process. It's similar to in jiu-jitsu when you're rolling, right? Or like you said, when you're painting, the idea is to join the flow, not control the flow. And so that is the practice that we try to simplify and streamline every time you sit in the studio. And my goal as a producer to be as unified with that flow as I can be every single time I'm in the studio. That's what I teach my students, and that's what I try to do with my collaborators. Let's just join the flow. Let's become one. I know it sounds cliche, but let's become one with that energy that is in this room right now. And that's how the best music is made.
No, that's perfectly said, man. How did you? I know we were talking about music, but how did you get into this more deeper, higher level, like thinking way of doing things? Because I feel like spirituality has a huge role to play in what we do. In the smallest things, it can be cooking, it can be going to the gym, it can be with producing music, it can be even with business. And from what I'm hearing is that you're very like tapped into that, that spiritual stuff, the energetical stuff that like makes things click for you.
Yeah, I think being a creative does definitely open that world up to you a bit more because you come to a point within yourself where you say, surely this can't all be me because I don't even know where these ideas came from. Like, I didn't have this melody 5 minutes ago and now it's a complete song. How do I explain that to my logical brain?
Yeah.
Because it didn't exist. So you start questioning, where did these ideas come from? How did this happen? And so that combined with having a spiritual upbringing, I was predominantly raised by my grandparents, and my grandmother used to sit me down with her every morning, God rest her soul. And I used to read prayers with her every morning before school. So imagine, like, I'm maybe 8, 9 years old, and I'm waking up and I'm just doing my morning prayers before I go to school. And the kind of energy that sets me up with as a child, not knowing what's happening.
Yeah.
And as I got older, all of those things stuck with me because I started to realize as a man, hang on a minute, these are good practices for what I do as a creative because it puts me on a certain frequency. So I credit it to my upbringing. And then I'd say certain life experiences made me go deeper into it, made me question things more. And I think the root of spirituality starts with the questions you ask. A lot of people have the big questions: why are we here? What is death? Is death real? Why are we born at this time? Right? It's all questions, but as you go through life's trials and tribulations, you start developing your own questions. And I think the process of me asking my own questions and getting what I feel is like answers, they just open up more and more doors for you to learn more about yourself, that self-inquiry, and then that recycles itself back into the work.
Mm, very interesting. Yeah, I think one thing that you mentioned, self-inquiry, that's a very great way to put it, because I feel like when you go through a lot of challenges, you meet different people, friendships, relationships, family, you learn a lot about yourself. And I think when you like start, learning about yourself, that's when you grow. Not
Hmm.
necessarily, most of the times we focus on the physical stuff, like doing this habit and that habit and, running and hitting the gym and eating this. Those are great on a physical level. But I think when you become aware of, certain situations, traits, people, experiences, those, when you're aware of those things, that elevates your consciousness. That, makes you, quote unquote smarter in a way, like you just become more receptive to better ideas, new ways of thinking. And I'm sure you applied that to your music, you applied that to your lifestyle, you applied that to all parts of your life. And then 5 years goes by, 10 years goes by, and then you made a lot of progress.
That's exactly what it is. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Hmm. I'm sure you've worked with a lot of musicians, a lot of artists. What's like a common trait that you've seen, that the ones that they're on the top, they have it, and the ones that are good, they don't have it?
Mhm. Mindset towards success and how they treat people. I find that the most, actually, this is interesting because I've also encountered contradictions. So, what I was first going to say was the people at the top tend to be more humble with their gift. But I've also experienced people that we would deem at the top and they're not humble at all. So that could be an insecurity thing on their part, projecting certain insecurities out into the world. But I would say, in my experience, the people that I respect, regardless of their level that I deem at a high level, they've got a insane work ethic to the point where if you think you live, breathe, and sleep what you do, they're going to show you that times 10, and it will just force you to level up. I would say the second thing that I've noticed amongst, people that I respect is that they have a certain way of carrying themselves when it comes to the process of working with each other. It's not as simple as anybody can just get in the room and work with them. You have to almost get to a certain level of qualifying your skills before you can then start getting to that level of collaborating with them. And that showed me the importance of earning your stripes and access. And as we know in the business world, as you ascend in your chosen field, you start gaining access and unlocking things. And it is very much a gamified thing, life is, right? As you unlock new levels, you open new doors and you get new opportunities. It's very similar in the music industry.
Mhm.
You'll start doing one or two things, you make a certain track or you make a certain move, and now you've unlocked this whole new level. And I remember there's this period of maybe 2 or 3 months where I just feel like I unlocked a whole world. And suddenly I went from like here to here, just by like one move. And it just, I don't know what that game is. It's like that game where like you try and get like the matching gems and everything just collapses and it goes to like I think it's called Bejeweled, something like this, right?
Mm.
Maybe your watchers will know, but your viewers will know. But yeah, that's how it is in music country. Like you'll make one move, everything will just unlock and explode like this. And that just taught me that don't underestimate your next move, because your next move could get you in that room that you've been trying to get into and that access you're looking for, and the opportunity, it will come, but you got to just keep on making the right moves. So yeah, I would say those are the main two things: the work ethic and understanding how to make the right moves. And then it is basic to say this, but honestly, just being the best you can be at what you do. Like if you are undeniable, I'm talking about you go anywhere on God's green earth with your skill set in your field and anyone will respect what you do. Like that's the level you've got to be playing at, and know that there's someone younger than you, hungrier than you, and more eager for it than you are, that is ready to just take your spot at any moment. And so it's that, and it's not that I live in like a competitive mindset in my head that someone's going to come for my stuff, because what's yours is yours, right? But it's understanding that opportunities don't always come around as quick as we want them to. So if you're not prepared for something, you will get another opportunity, but it might not be the speed at which you want it to come at if you're not putting the work in. So I learned about that too.
I see. Was there
Mm-hmm.
like a phase in your life that you were grinding really hard, you were putting a lot of effort, but the results weren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I remember there was like this one phase, and man, like I was super out of shape. I was unhappy. I mean, by the grace of God, I don't think I've ever been depressed. It's not something I've ever suffered with, but that was probably the closest to depression I've ever been. And I just feel like the music I was making was not inspired. It was for a check, and you could hear it, and I could feel it when I was in a session. And I remember specifically being in a studio session with a young group of rappers. And this is nothing to do with rappers specifically, but that's what they were. They were rappers, right? And I just remember listening to their lyrics, and they were just awful, man. And I was just like, this is where I've got to in life, yeah? Like, I'm stuck in a room that is super hot for crazy low money, and these guys are just screaming these horrible lyrics in my ears. Something's got to change, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, something has to change. This can't be life. And I was still getting cool opportunities here and there, but when I weighed it up, like the amount of great opportunities versus the okay opportunities, like I just wasn't getting enough and I wasn't doing myself justice. And so I just had a really harsh word with myself, and I made a really solid plan, and I just vowed to just change my life and never turn back. And here we are.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people have that moment because I read this book. Actually, I have it right now on my desk. It's called Unscripted. It's like a business book, and
Oh, dope.
then by like MJ DeMarco, and then he has this. part about in the book they was saying like it's called FTE, fuck this event, that you're like, you're in a certain situation in your life, you're like, you know what, fuck this, I have to change, I have no other choice. It seems like you had that, like one of those moments that you were like, it's just, I cannot do this anymore, like I don't know
Yeah.
what it's gonna take, but I'm gonna make that decision to change it.
Yes, brother, that was exactly it. And I'll be honest, I've had a few,
Mm.
more than I would like to admit.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think those moments are the times that you really test you, like your faith, your belief in you, your in your craft. Like a lot of people, unfortunately, they fold in those moments.
Mm.
They let go of their dream, they let go of their goal. Like maybe there was like a, who knows, maybe there's like an alternate version of you that when he was in that situation, he was like, what, maybe music is not for me, let me just do something else, let me just give up on this, let me go pursue something else. And like those small decisions, as you said, like one decision can change your trajectory forever.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly that.
And then you stuck to it, so here we are.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm grateful that I've never thought I should give up music, but I've definitely had thoughts about, hmm, maybe I just do it on the side for a few years and focus on, getting a real job and making big money and doing all this, that, and the other, because I want to do this personal thing and I want to do that personal thing. But I, I don't know if this is just in my head, but every time I've tried to do that or give music less attention or less energy, God will literally put the biggest opportunity of my life right in front of me. And He'll be like, nope, you're not walking away from this. And He'll just keep me there. And it's happened every single time without fail. And so that's been my confirmation that, I'm on the right path and that I'm being helped by someone up above.
Hmm.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful, man. Has
Yeah.
there been like a situation in your life, like within like the your business, your music and stuff, that you you got like humbled in a way, and you had to like in a constructive way, because it happened to me a lot that people say things to you that it's not the most pleasant, it's not the most, it doesn't like, it kind of shatters your ego, you're like, oh, this hurts. But like
Yeah.
you're like, when you sit down, you're like, you know what, like as much as it hurts, it's true, like I gotta level up.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm laughing because I remember my face in those moments. And yeah, in this industry, you will get humbled. If you are not up to scratch, believe someone somewhere will tell you. So I'll tell you just the one incident that comes to mind. I remember I had a manager at the time, and if he sees this, he's gonna laugh because he doesn't know I felt this way, but he'll find out now. But I had a manager at the time, a music manager, and I'll say this much: when I was younger, I had a bit of an ego because no one had ever told me no up until this point, right? And he was managing me, and we had a meeting coming up with like a major record label, like one of the top three in the world. And one of the offices is based in London. So at this time in my life, I was semi living in London, and I was going to stay there on the weekends to work on material for the record labels and stuff. And I had, like I said, a bit of an ego, so I would like in the week I'd text my manager, bro, you wait till you hear these beats, are the best beats you ever had. Yo, these are fire. These beats are crazy. I can't wait to show you. Like, da, da, da. I'm like just talking all this talk, right? And we get to the studio. I'm like, you ready? You ready? I'll press play, right? So I go to press play, and I look at him and he's like, no reaction. I'm like, what? Okay, okay, wait. I got another song for you. I got another song. Track two. I know, are you gonna like this one? So I got to play track two. Nothing. I've gone down to like beat 9 and 10. I think it was like beat 9 and 10. He's like, yeah, yeah, that one's cool. That one's cool. I'm like, bro, I just played you like 10 of the best beats I ever made. He's like, yeah, they're cool, man, but
Yeah.
I've heard better. And I was just like, what? Because I think it's like the best thing I ever made. But he said something to me in that moment, and it stuck with me for life. He goes, if you can make this now, you're gonna make better in the future. And
Mm,
so I didn't understand what he was saying. I was like, yeah, but this is my best right now. Like, don't you like it? And as I got older, I realized the level of talent he was surrounded by and how humble they were. And then the level of talent I was at and how arrogant I was being in the moment. So my character combined with the level of talent I was at was doing me a disservice. And as I grew through the ranks, the most talented people I knew that were producers and creatives were actually stupidly humble to the point where I was like, bro, you need to like speak up a bit because you're like the best producer I've ever heard. And there was me who was nowhere near their level telling them I'm like the best thing since sliced bread. So imagine how much of a fool I looked, right? So that was a very humbling lesson, but I'm so glad it happened because I can now see that in other producers. I'm like, tone it down a bit, bro. Chill, you're not there yet. And it makes me just go harder. That I know if I press play, someone in the room is going to feel this beat. But I even then, I don't get cocky. I'm like, maybe you'll like this. I don't know. Maybe you won't like it because I've also learned I might think it's amazing and I might be in a room full of 10 people that say they're my friends, but nobody likes it. It's cool. You can't please everybody. But I had to learn that the hard way.
mm, yeah,
Yeah.
those moments definitely can be like very heavy, especially if you take it the wrong way. It can, maybe destroy relationships, maybe it can destroy connections if you take it the wrong way. But as you said, you didn't take it like too personally. You were like, what, I'm going to improve, I'm going to do the work. And unfortunately, this is like true with a lot of people in a lot of different industries, because the moment they get like, not necessarily humbled in a bad way, but a reality check that they're like, you're not there, like, it can be athletes, it can be businessmen. It's definitely an opportunity for them to grow. And for me,
Absolutely.
it happened to in like a lot of different situations. I think with music, as you said, it's like a very subjective, like what you like is doesn't necessarily mean someone else is going to like it. How did you um when you started producing music, did you feel like everyone has to like your music, or you were like, what, like, I'm fine if someone doesn't like it, this is just what I like?
That's a great question. So, when, in all honesty, when I started making music, I wanted everyone to like it. I wanted it to be like, I'm going to release this song and everyone's going to love it. And then as I got older, I realized that music is a very personal thing. And someone might think the beat is dope, but they don't connect with the beat as much as the lyrics. Because I remember when I first started releasing music with vocals on it, people would say, "Oh, those lyrics are beautiful." And I'd be like, "Well, I made the beat though. I didn't write the lyrics. Someone else wrote the lyrics and they sung it." And I used to get so hung up on the fact that they didn't even mention my production. And then it clicked. I was like, "Oh, it's because music is so personal." So I'm sat here fixating on the fact that they haven't even mentioned the beat, even though they probably liked it and felt it, but they're an emotional person who connects with lyrics. But then you'll get the other person who just listens to the beat and doesn't listen to the lyrics. And so I realized that there's different types of listeners and you can't cater for every single listener because you'll be fighting a never-ending battle where nobody wins. You're
Yeah.
always gonna be at the mercy of other people's judgment. And then coming back to the spirituality thing, as I matured as a human being, I realized there's a great book, The Courage to Be Disliked. I was like, it's okay if someone doesn't like what I do because I like what I do and I do it as a form of self expression. I'm thankfully not in a place anymore where I have to make music to make a living. I can I can use my gifts and my skills in another way to make a living. So the beauty of that is it frees me up creatively. And ironically, I'm now making the best music of my life.
Mm, interesting.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying the moment you started producing music for the actual music itself, your quality of the work improved rather than when the times that you had to kind of rely on it for your income.
Yeah, tenfold for me.
Why do you think that
And
is?
I think when I started working for myself in my early 20s. So I haven't had a job since I was about 22, 23, right? I won't give away my age, but it's well over a decade, right? And not having like a 9 to 5 for that long and being your sole source of income, and all you have is your skills in music, and you're like, this is my dream and I'm going to give it everything. You have to think of ways to survive, because it is literally like, I have to make money, otherwise I won't be able to do anything. And so I started looking at my skills, and what would happen is I would engineer, which is like record people like as artists and then like mix them. And then that started taking up more of my time than actual producing. And then when I did produce, it was still work for other people. And I ended up in a situation where I was essentially for hire for everyone. And I wasn't a creative anymore. And when I came to that FTE, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
When I had the FTE, I was like, nah, we're not doing this. I wasn't put on this earth to be someone's for hire. I was put here to create, and I will utilize my skills to serve people. And that will be my business, to service people with my skills. I'm not going to just give away my time as if it doesn't matter. And so when I got that freedom back emotionally and creatively, oh man, I was on fire. When I had that moment where I was like, I can't do this anymore, and I had that full creative freedom back to just do whatever I wanted to do, and I was no longer hiring out my time to other people,
Yeah.
it opened up a whole new world for me of creativity, because I felt like I was able to sustain myself financially on my own time. And the key to all of this, though, is because I'm constantly teaching my craft to other people, it's deepening my own understanding of it. Because every single day, I'm having to explain what I do to somebody else. So imagine subconsciously how many repetitions I'm doing in my head. It's like if an athlete was explaining to another player why they throw the basketball like this in a certain way, why their wrist is this way. What do you think is going to happen when that player's on the court? He's done that drill in his head a million times. So, like, even earlier, I was teaching a student, and I was saying to him, I was like, when I go into studio sessions now and I'm able to just make an entire song in like 20 minutes, and people are like, how did you do that? I'm like, I've done so many reps, it's like breathing to me now. It's literally second nature. I know every single part of the process in whatever order it needs to happen for us to have a song, but the song is going to be different every time depending on who I'm working with. So it's just repetition, man. And I say to people, that path to greatness, that path to mastery is just reps every single day. And suddenly, before you know it, like with bodybuilding, suddenly you've got the body you want. If you've got the diet and you're in the gym and you've got the discipline, suddenly 6 months later, you look in the mirror, you're not the same person. It's the same as a producer. You're in a studio every day for 6 months. Okay, cool. Well, you're going to be sounding a lot different 6 months later.
Mm, very true. Very true. How did you find ways to make ends meet? Because I feel like, especially a lot of creative people early on, like early 20s, late teens, they they come to this crossroad of like, okay, how can I balance my creativity and my creative work with something that's going to provide me income? You know,
Mm.
were you like, I'm going to do something separately? Let's just say, I don't know, like a different job or a different business that's not related to your music, or you were like, I'm going to combine both. I'm going to do it at the same time.
So I've had a few odd jobs here and there throughout the years. Maybe in my late 20s, I had part-time Christmas jobs if I needed some extra cash. Maybe I was dating somebody and I wanted to buy them, an extra special present, and I
Yeah.
just wanted some quick cash, right? So I'd be like, cool, let's just get like a part-time job for like 2 months, right? Why not? Or there was times when I thought about getting an actual job again on the side and splitting my week between a part-time job and doing music. But like I said, for whatever reason, man, whenever I try to do that, God will just be like, here's a 3 month production contract. I'm like, what can I say? I'm obviously not going to say no, right?
Yeah.
So, and it just happens for me like that. And I can't say it's like that for everybody because I do have fellow creative friends that I know have really struggled with it. And I've always said I have absolutely zero shame in doing what I need to do. Like if I was a husband or a father and I had a wife or kids to provide for, best believe if I have to stack shelves, I'm gonna stack shelves. I've never been afraid to roll up my sleeves and get my hands dirty. A man's got to do what a man's got to do, but by the grace of God, I've not really had to do that for the
Mm.
last decade or so. I think it's more a case of a person being honest about their ability to look at themselves and say, am I doing everything in my power to make my dream become a reality? And I feel like the starving artist thing, I'm not going to say it's a choice because it's not a choice because you can be putting in mad work and just be not getting the recognition that you deserve. But I don't think that in this day and age, with the level of tools we have and the access we have, that even if you was doing music part time, you couldn't make some headway while having a part time job. Like if I was to go back in time, I probably would keep a part time job of some sort and still do music. I'd say I definitely took the hardest route possible, but it built mad character and mad discipline. And now I know when I do have kids, I can say to them, son, you might not want to do that. You might want to keep a job and
Mm.
do music too. So would I recommend, going cold turkey and having absolutely no income and just going straight into your dream? Nah, like it's not an economically sound move. And as a logical man now, I don't think it's the best idea. But is it the worst thing in the world that is unbearable? Absolutely not. Some of the best times in my life was when I was broke as hell.
Mm.
You know what I
I
mean?
wanna, sorry to coach, I wanna like challenge you on your perspective. I feel like when you said you went cold turkey, I think that's a sign that you have full conviction and full belief in yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
there's been times, in my personal life or people that, that I've seen that's like they have that part-time job, they have that extra comfortable thing on the side that, gives them a sort of income or a sort of protection, but they just don't take off without their main thing, their creativity, their music, their art, their sport, athletic performance and stuff. And I feel like when you put yourself in that cold turkey situation, you have no other choice. It's like you
Yeah,
have to make it work. And
absolutely.
I know, like, on paper it sounds better to have a job, it sounds better to, have that reliable income, but I feel like there's just a beauty in just like fully letting go and like trusting that process, because it can
Yeah,
be worse than your current situation. You might
of
go like a
course,
step or two back, but the upside is like infinite if you really make that cold turkey situation really work and, make something work. The upside is infinite.
for sure. I think it's situational. So
Yeah.
like if you have a wife and kids and you go cold turkey and
Yeah.
they're depending on you as the breadwinner, then you might have to have a very difficult conversation with your girlfriend or your wife, right? And I don't know how understanding she might be.
Yeah.
But if you have money saved or she's potentially willing to cover the expenses while you give yourself a window of time to do your thing, maybe 6 months, amazing. But I was fortunate that I made these decisions when I was single and I didn't have anyone to answer to. So I was able to do it. But I wouldn't do it if I had responsibilities because I just feel like this industry is so unpredictable and inconsistent with the income that it would probably leave you very stressed and anxious about your next paycheck. And I just think when someone's functioning from that place in their life, they're not their best self for anybody, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Situationally, of course, it matters. As you said, like if you're, a parent, you have responsibilities to handle. That's sometimes you just got to make certain sacrifices, or maybe you really have like tight schedule with everything you're doing. You just have to squeeze everything in whenever you can. But even like that's like a smaller aspect of it. But I feel like just letting go and like trusting, the process, and just having faith, having that belief. I know a lot of people say believe in yourself, believe in this, but I think a lot when you believe in yourself, it shows in your actions, right? Like a lot of people say I believe in myself, but they don't take the action. They don't put their music out there. They don't put that video out there. They don't talk to that person. They just in their mind maybe they convince themselves they believe it, but if you really embodied that belief and way of thinking, your actions would speak, right? So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need to understand that like their actions also need to align with their way of thinking and their beliefs.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think as well, there's examples I can think of in my life right now of people that I think are the most talented human beings on the planet, but they are in a situation, that's what I'll name it as, where they can't pursue music because they haven't left any time or space in their life for that. And when I speak to them, bro, man, I wish I had time to make music, but and I used to say, yeah, but if you really wanted to make music, you'd find the time. And but then I think about it as if I'm in their shoes. I'm like, okay, well, on a good day, I might have 5 or 6 hours to sleep, right? Because I just got like two new kids and got a job. Okay, if I've got 5 or 6 hours to sleep and we need eight, I'm already behind. And then how many hours am I going to make music? Okay, then I got to eat. I got to shower. Okay, so that leaves me what, 3 hours to sleep? 3 hours to sleep every day? Come on, man. Like, and so I had to start developing some empathy. And so what I just started saying is, man, look, you can split up your weeks into like maybe on the weekend you make music, and then whatever you make on the weekend, you got to just make sure you release it or whenever you have time, like let's say you have like a day off once every 2 weeks, that whole day you're just making music, backlogging it, creating content. There's always a way to do it. And so what I always say to people is the goal stays the same, but the route can change.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I get it if you're a father, I get it if you haven't got the time. That doesn't mean you give up on your goal. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you give up on your dream. It just means you have to be smarter with how you use your time. So 100%, man, like it is situational, but I always believe that where there's a will, there's a way. 100%.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like, as you said, like it's just sometimes life opens doors for you. Like when the door seems everything is going against you, nothing is going your way, just struggles, problems after another. Suddenly, it's just that one moment, that one move that you make just opens so many doors for you. And then you never know when that's going to come. Maybe you get plenty of it in 1 year, maybe you don't get none for 5 years, but you stick to
Hmm.
the grind. You show up in the process. You elevate in your craft. You improve your skills. You hone your mindset. You connect with new people. And sometimes some people may hold you back. Some people maybe push you forward. But you become aware of things. You become aware of different way of thinkings. As you said, like you were making music with certain artists that they didn't necessarily represent your way of creativity or your values or your ideas, and you were like, you know what, I'm just gonna make a different decision. And some people, they're fine doing the bare minimum, but you took that leap of faith.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. That's all it
Mm.
was.
Yeah,
And I'm grateful that I had the position around me to do that also. And maybe someone can argue that, cool, I'm not married with kids yet, but I love what I do, man. I'm living my dream every day, bro. And I wish I was married with kids and I was living my dream too, but that will come. And when I look at some people that had dreams and didn't pursue them, and they are married with kids, they kind of wish they was able to pursue music like I was.
yeah,
And so the grass isn't always greener, man. And perspective, brother, perspective.
100%. Yeah, I think a lot of choices come with different sacrifices. You have to, you cannot have everything. You can have whatever you want, but you cannot have everything. Um,
Yeah.
because we have only so much energy and time and decisions to make. And let's just say you want to be a pro footballer, you want to be a pro, basketball, you want to do music, you want to do this. You may be able to do it in a decent, good level, but you cannot necessarily go too far in them, and you cannot necessarily excel with them if you have such like a divided focus and attention.
Yeah, yeah. And you just gotta, if that's the decision you're gonna make, if you say, you know what, I'm willing to bet my whole future on mastering this one thing, you've got to know in your heart that if you've sacrificed the big house with the picket fence and the dogs and the wife and the kids and the nice lifestyle, that you're comfortable with knowing that you got to the mountaintop and you're the master and you got the trophy and you're like, yeah, but then you feel empty because now you got to the mountaintop and now you're just there by yourself and now you got nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And I heard Will Smith speak about this a lot. Will Smith was just saying on one of these podcasts where he got to like the mountaintop and he had achieved every conceivable human thing you can think of, whether it was women or fame or success or movies. And he was just the emptiest he'd ever been because he realized it was not what he wanted. And that is like the worst nightmare for any creative, to sacrifice their whole life and then they get it and it's not what they wanted. So my thing is always making sure that whatever move I make, somewhere in that thought process is, I still want to have a family one day. I still want to have a whole personal life flourish as well as my career. So there's probably people out there that are way more obsessed about their craft than I am, and they're okay with maybe never having a family and doing all of these things. I'm not that guy. I want to master what I can to the best of my ability while still also enjoying my time on this earth as this particular version of me, you know? So
Yeah.
there's a balance you got to have, man. You got to ask yourself, what are you willing, like you said before, what are you willing to sacrifice?
Mm. I think a lot of times we don't realize that a lot of times like life, I know success is important, but I feel like some people, they do it for the sake of the craft. They don't do it for money. They don't do it for fame. Some people just do it just to get better at it, just be the best at what they do. Some people do it for the money, but I think one thing that I feel like, as you said, like you got to keep in your mind is that what do you want to experience in life? Like I think one of the main purposes of life is just to expand your consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do that with traveling. As you said, you went to Dubai this time and you had a whole different perspective from the other times. Or it can be raising a family, going out with your friends, doing trips here and there. All those things, I think, even though it's not necessarily work mode, you still add things to your consciousness, the way you think. I did, like I said this like in multiple videos, but like I did like a road trip a couple months ago from here to Miami, and that changed me a lot. And it was only 11 days. I just drove from
Mm-hmm.
with my car from LA to Miami, and the fact that I got to see so many people, so many different cultures within one country, different states, different way of living, different standards of living, and just cultures, that changes you a lot. And you can use that for your work. I'm sure when you went to like different places, you got inspirations and ideas and like new ways of thinking from different places. You're like, wow, like I can apply to this, to my craft. Like I can use this for my clients, I can use this for my students, and it just connect the dots. And I think when you're able to perceive more things and you become more aware of different things, you become, it's funny, but because you become that like a guy who basically connects different things and you provide that new version to other people.
Yes, yes. I call it the synthesizer.
Yeah.
So you synthesize information and you become this medium, like you said, for other people. And
Medium.
some people can look at you and they feel inspired when they see it because they're like, wow, like this is what's possible. But then some people can also feel maybe a bit like, ooh, maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I need to do more. But that's also healthy as well, because the same way we got humbled and it forces us to grow, we can also be the reason why people grow as well. So as long as we are a force for good in this universe, brother, I feel like we're on the right track.
Absolutely. When like I'm sure there's been times in your all these years that you've had that moment that you were like, wow, like I did this, I made it. Like how did that feel?
Hmm, man, there's always more things that I want to unlock and do and achieve, and there's still some key milestones I want to cross off my list of things that I want to achieve. But I'd say in the last 2, maybe 3 years specifically, I achieved some really big milestones. But I'd say the first one that jumps to my mind was the day I launched the academy, my
Mm,
new teaching academy, Shokunin Music Academy. We got contacted by a school in the area that I grew up, where I was born and raised, and we got asked to go in and teach. And it just blew my mind that the day we went public, I hit a personal milestone that I'd had since I was like a teenager. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me, man. Like, I was like, God really has a
mm,
sense of humor. It's almost like he was saying, I told you so. I was just waiting for you. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? And I remember getting to the school, and no nerves, no apprehension, no second guessing. I remember walking into that room and I was saying things to myself that I've never said before. Even in production, I just remember walking into the room, I said, man, I was born for this. And I just felt this surge of energy. I just got goosebumps as I said that, right? And I just remember feeling like, man, I was made for this. And I remember teaching those kids, like, like doing my little brother. I've got a little brother, and I remember speaking to them how I speak to my brother when I'm showing him music. And he's a producer now as well, and he's only 17.
Mm,
And he's the next generation, right? And then we got invited back to teach another time at a studio right next to my grandmother's house. And that was the craziest bittersweet moment because my grandmother's not here anymore, but she was my
yeah.
biggest fan. And I remember looking at the sky, I was like, well, I hope you're watching from down there because your boy made it. And he's teaching at a studio down the road. And I remember just walking into that room, and I went to meet Tony, the head engineer, and I said, brother, it's been a long time coming, man. And he didn't really understand like the gravity of that moment for me because I had been waiting my whole life for that moment. Like everything had been building to that moment. But when I walked into that studio and I saw this studio full of kids, and I knew that everyone was in that room because of me and what we was about to do with the amazing engineers that was with me, supporting me that day, I just thought, wow, like all I had to do was take the leap and go for it. And then look at what the universe did. It just put everyone around to support me and help me and lift me. And it was just the most surreal moment. And I'll just sometimes, if not every day, I will just walk around just in awe at what my life is like now compared to a few years ago. And I literally just say to people, it's crazy to be like living your dream on a daily basis,
Mm,
knowing how far you felt from it in the past. There's been times when I felt like I don't know if you're like a Batman fan. I'm a huge Batman fan, but there's a movie called Batman Begins, and he's at the bottom of the pit and he's trying to come out every day, and everyone's saying to him, many have tried to come out of the pit, but only few have made it. And he builds his strength every day, and he's doing his push-ups and he's eating and he's trying to get stronger and he's doing his pull-ups. And every day they show a scene of him trying to climb out the pit, right? And he's climbing and he swings across and he keeps on failing. And then one day he just manages to swing across and he climbs out. And I just felt like, man, I climbed out of the pit. I made
mm.
it. I'm one of those guys. I climbed out of the pit, man. I did it. And it's just surreal, bro.
Yeah, I think when you were saying that you were going to produce like close to your grandma's house at the time when you were younger, so I'm sure it meant a lot to you. So yeah.
Everything, man. Yeah, it was bittersweet because I wish I was able to share those moments with her,
Yeah,
but I believe it was what she instilled in me that carried me to that moment anyway. So the energy was there, bro.
big respect, man. Big respect.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah. Do you miss the, let's just say, the days that you were still on your journey, that you, I mean, obviously you're still on your journey, but I'm saying the days that you were like, you weren't getting the results, the let's just say the broke days, the come up days, do you miss those days?
I laugh because I was thinking about this the other day. No, I don't, because
Mm,
it was hard, and it's not that I don't like hard things, or like I don't like discomfort or I don't like
yeah.
challenges, but I just know that the alignment I'm in now is the best place for me, and I'm situated now to go above and beyond and further. And it's been a long time coming, but I have the utmost respect and gratitude for all of those moments because, cliche again, they made me who I am. And the way I conduct myself, the way I'm able to be as a person, the thought processes I have all happen there. And one term I still use on a daily basis is the trenches. If you're not willing to go in the trenches every single day or at any given moment, you are not built for this. You might be in your Lamborghini today with your suit on and your rollie, thinking you're the man. But if you're not willing to trade that all in, go back to the trenches tomorrow, you don't have the mindset for it. Because what I've realized by coming to this point in my life is that making the money and succeeding actually isn't the hardest part. It's the maintaining it.
Mm,
And it's the mindset that helps you maintain what you've achieved. Because if you have a scarcity mindset, if you have a mindset of fear, and you don't understand what you've done to attract those things into your life, you'll lose them. Because what happens with some people is they get the things they want, and if they've never experienced success before or money before, they spend like it's going out of style, and I need this now because I've waited so many years for this one thing and now I can finally afford it, or I'm going to show people how much money I got so I can look good on the gram, and yeah, I'm gonna buy this Louis Vuitton this and da, da, da. I can do all that, but I've not felt the need to because I still have so much I want to build. My thing is, what can I invest into the company? How can I make the product better? How can I make the service better? How can I give back more? How can I elevate what I'm doing to a place where it's never been before? How can I make history? What's the legacy move? I'm thinking on a different level.
mm,
Some people just think on like a material level. Again, it comes back to the religion thing. Our first guru, Guru Nanak in Sikhism, he says, "Don't get lost in the illusion of the Maya," which means don't get lost in the illusion of the material world because it's all fleeting.
mm,
So when you understand that the material world is a fleeting world that's constantly changing, and someone's always going to have a bigger car, a nicer watch, a more attractive girlfriend, and a bigger house, you're like, okay, well, that's a race I'm never going to win. So
mm,
maybe I have to try and find something with more substance. And so that is what keeps me centered.
mm.
Yeah,
You prioritize the internal world rather than the physical.
absolutely. Because when you do that, the external, well, your external world is a mirror of your internal world. So if you look after the internal world, the external world will be beautiful.
Mm. As within, as without.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there? It can be maybe multiple, but maybe like as one specific artist that you really want to work with him.
There's a few. There's a few. I would love to get. Okay, so I'm going to give you two. One's from an artist level, and then one's producer collaborations.
Yeah.
So, in terms of artists, I would love to work with. Man, there's so many. Like, I'd love to get a song with Jay-Z, a song with Nas,
Hmm.
Kendrick Lamar, right? In terms of like rappers. In terms of singers, like I'd love to get like a song with like Beyonce or like Usher, right? I'm an R&B guy in that world. In terms of producer collaborations, I'd love to get a collaboration with Pharrell. Like Pharrell is like one of the people I look up to the most. Pharrell, the Neptunes. I'd love to have a collaboration with someone maybe like Timberland or even Ryan Leslie. Like these are guys I really look up to as producers. So I'd love to have collaborations with them in the producer world. And the thing is, when I say that now, it feels so much more achievable because I know people that know these people, and I've had
Yeah.
conversations with people that are around these people. So I don't see that and laugh to myself, be like, "Ha, keep on dreaming." Like, no, I'm like, okay, well, it just requires a bit more work, you know. So yeah, but I would love to collaborate with those people.
No, that's lovely. What's I know this is well, this is more of like an entertaining question, but have you noticed some sketchy things happening in the music industry? Some sketchy contracts and deals, or no?
If there was a word to describe the industry, it'd be sketchy. It is the sketchiest
Yeah.
of industries, if I'm being honest with you. There's some stories I probably can't share publicly that I know about, but I'll
Yeah.
say this, it's the kind of industry where people will do the wildest shit for an opportunity.
Mm.
And yeah, it's like, sometimes you know these entertainment shows, like Britain's Got Talent. I don't know if you've heard of like Britain's Got Talent on like X Factor, where people come on stage and they like do crazy things to like entertain you just to get through to the next round. That's kind of how the industry can be sometimes, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. You're in UK, so I feel like it's probably maybe a bit different, maybe a bit more, a bit less. But I feel like it's way more like I mean the trenches of that all those stuff. Like I mean in Los Angeles and all those things happen, around here, Los Angeles, Hollywood. Um,
I've got
so
friends
yeah,
in there. I know
yeah, they probably tell them some crazy stories, right?
they do.
They better not come out.
No, no. Like
Yeah,
I've heard about these LA networking parties, man. So
yeah.
yeah, it's
It's
crazy,
crazy
man.
because you think that only happens to people, let's just say, on the higher levels, but people who are starting, they get invitations, weird stuff. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah. How have you found LA in terms of a scene, in terms of something that you're trying to enter and build from? Do you find it challenging?
Honestly, I feel like I'm very detached from it. I don't want to get into it. Like I don't really see myself part of it. I just
Okay.
live here, right? But I don't really see myself being like, connecting with people who are within this industries at least, or this way of living. Like there are like a lot of streamers here, a lot of actors, actresses, musicians, and I'm not saying all of them are like that, but I would say a huge portion of them they have a very like soulless way of thinking and living and just moving basically with their all actions. And I think that sometimes like I don't see my principles and my values, throwing them away for like a check or a connect. I've you wouldn't believe, but I've had like conversations with people that they were crushing it on the OnlyFans industry. They're like, you can come here, you can run like this OnlyFans agencies, we can get a lot of girls here. And I was like, I mean, I know it's gonna work out, but like just not for me.
Well, kudos to you, brother,
Yeah.
because we need more men like us in the world that are men of integrity and honor and respect, because there's some things in this life that you just can't buy, and those three things I just named you cannot buy.
Yeah.
And fortunately, once you sell it, there's no refunds.
No. Yeah. And some people just sell, let's just say their principles and their values. Some people sell, their body, we don't know like what's going on behind the scenes. They sell their family,
Their
um
soul.
everything. They're willing to do anything for an image that basically goes away when you die, right? But it
Mm,
is what it is, man. We can only control the controllables, and the controllable part is just our decisions, our soul. I watched this
yeah,
movie, I don't know if you watched it. It's called The Kingdom of Heaven. It's like,
no.
it's like a Crusaders movie. You've probably seen the clips on Instagram, maybe here and there. And there was this part, King Baldwin. It was like, he's the king of like the Christians in Jerusalem, and then there was a scene that a young guy comes from a different part of Europe, and he was like, he wants to be, taking over his father's role, in one of the nearby castles. And the king was like, you know, he basically said that nothing is really in control besides your mind and your heart and your soul, basically. And he was like,
Hmm.
these are the most important things. Like, this is not the exact quote, but it was something in those lines that you gotta value your soul and your mind and your values and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. That is
Yeah,
literally all we can control, and I think
yeah,
that's why I say the inner world. If you look after the inner world, you'll find that outer world is taken care of.
yeah, 100%. I want to see. I want to find the exact quote he said because it was really beautiful. I feel like viewers can definitely benefit from it. Let's see.
Hmm.
Oh, he said, "A king may move a man, a father may claim a son, but remember that even when those who move you be kings or men of power, your soul is in you, keeping alone."
Mm.
Yeah. So it's
Hmm.
like no matter who is higher than you or lower than you, your soul is always in your hand.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. When you control that, man, I feel like you're on the right path.
Yeah. What's like a to wrap things up? What's a piece of advice you have for young artists, young creators that they're on the come up, they're in that trenches, those difficult days that some people may think giving up is the only option. Some people have made barely any hope. Like, what would be your words to give them encouragement to push through those moments?
If you feel like something higher than you has put something inside of you that you can't explain, but you can't ignore it either, and you know that it's been given to you for a reason, please see it through. That is your duty in this lifetime. That is why you are on this planet. You are on this planet to share that gift with the world. What I'm going to say may not make any sense now, but it will one day. It's bigger than you.
Mm,
So that gift is God's gift to you. What you do with that gift is your gift to God. So if you understand that principle and you move through life understanding that this is bigger than you and that you are working in unison with the Most High, and whatever He does is His will for you because He wants the best for you, then you can overcome any obstacle. You can overcome any hardship because if it's something you perceive as a battle, it's because he needs you to get stronger now because he's about to take you to the next level.
mm,
If you feel like you're not getting the results you think you need, it's because he's redirecting you to something bigger and better, but he needs to work on you a bit more yet. You're not quite there. So hold faith and stay strong in your gift because it was given to you for a very specific purpose. It's not by coincidence, it is for a very precise reason. So follow it through. It is absolutely paramount that you do that. And if you don't, you will live a life of regret, and that regret will eat you alive every single day. So it is much wiser to follow the harder path that God has chose for you than take the easy route that you've chosen for yourself. And that is why I created the academy, the Shokunin Music Academy, because at our academy, we don't just teach music production. We are artist development program as well, and we teach the mindset needed to succeed in this industry. And to my knowledge, we are the only um, academy or one of the only academies that integrate philosophies and spirituality and mindset principles into a musical vocation program like that because we want people to understand how to work through these things. So Shokin Music Academy is my company, and you can reach out to me if you're interested. If you know you've got something inside of you but you feel like there's a block in you somewhere, or you feel like you can't figure out the next steps, let's just have a conversation and see if we can get you through that. But the main thing I want to say is don't give up and trust God's timing for you. And that's all I can say, man.
Absolutely, man. That's a beautiful way to wrap things up. I appreciate you for coming on, man. I learned a lot. I know for a fact there's a lot of wisdom and information and lessons to be absorbed from your words and your experiences. So, thank you again for coming on.
I really enjoyed this, my brother. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate
Of
you.
course, of course.